Hey guys, it's Rosina and welcome back to my channel. Now I know, after seeing this thumbnail and the title, you're thinking to yourself, well, who is this older gentleman I see that you are saying is the most oblivious man in the world? Well, I'll tell you. That man right there, that's my dad. Now I know what you're also thinking. Well, that's not very nice to say about your dad. I mean, he's not here to defend himself. I don't see him. Well, yeah, he's not here to defend himself. And, if he's uncomfortable with me telling these stories, he can show me a sign. Well, I didn't see anything. I guess he's okay with it. Now, I'm going to give you guys 2 stories about my dad that will show you how much of an oblivious man he was, okay? And don't worry, I have witness testimony. My mom. Now, I wanted her to be here with me to tell these stories, but she is not comfortable being on camera right now. Maybe someday I can bring her on and you guys can meet her, but if she's not comfortable right now, she's not comfortable, so I'm not going to force her to do anything. But I would have loved for her to tell this story or these stories, because I feel like she would probably tell it better than I would. All right, so for our first story, this is when my parents were at a work event / party where all the colleagues got together, and, they were in the same field, so everybody was in the same, work field, okay? And at this time, my parents were exclusive. Everybody knew they were dating and, boyfriend, girlfriend, all that stuff, okay? Now, picture these pillows right here as my parents, okay? Now, I know there's a little too much room for Jesus right here, but just work with me here, okay? So, they're just, chatting away, chatting with everybody else, having a good time. And then all of a sudden, this is where the, too much room for Jesus comes in, okay? This little young lady, probably in her early 20s or something like that, sits right here, right in between my parents, okay? And she is only looking at Dad. She just wants Dad's attention, okay? Because I will point this out. My dad, and I say this sincerely, he was a pretty handsome man, okay? There was a lot of ladies that wanted to chat him up, okay? So, my mom, we'll just make sure this is mom, that's dad, okay? My mom just kind of looks like, what am I, chopped liver? Am I invisible? Like, hello, I'm here. And this girl she didn't care. She just had her back turned to mom and was chatting up my dad, okay? And she's flirting up a storm. She is hitting on my dad. She's just talking all this nice stuff about him and batting her eyes and pushing the hair and everything. Really, really putting it on, okay? My dad leans over to go talk to my mom, and he says, and I'm not going to use their names because you don't need to know my parents' names, okay? She looks at her and he says, honey, we have to find a date for this poor girl. And let me tell you, my mom said that this girl, her face dropped. She was she was devastated, okay? And I don't think she realized that my dad was taken, but I don't think she was expecting to be just flat out damn, we gotta find a date for this lady. She got rejected, okay? And she was just devastated. And my mom was I just sat there, just kind of laughing a little bit to myself because it's haha, that's right. That's my man. So, as you can see from hearing that, I like how I said see and hear at the same time. You use your ears to hear, not your eyes. But as you have heard, my dad, no idea. No idea that this girl was flirting with him. He just wasn't paying attention. He was in his own little world. So would you say he was being oblivious to this lady's affections and flirting? Yeah, because who else would say, honey, we had to find a date for this poor girl? Now, I'm sure with that story you can tell that my dad didn't really pick up signs well, okay? Like signs of certain things. Dad just was in his own little world, okay? So speaking of that, not seeing, the cues or the signs or anything, the second story. My mom and my dad were going over to a friend's house just to, hang out, have some drinks, food, all that kind of stuff. It was my dad's best friend and his wife that they were going to go see. And, they're at their house and they're, chatting up and everything. And, it was getting late. And, there were things going on. And my mom just was kind of picking up that, hey, maybe it's time to go. Like, go home. And dad's just chatting away, having a great time. He's a social bug. He just would love to talk all the time. He'd talk your ear off if you had any interests that he was interested in or any facts that he would love to tell you, things like that. So dad's just, chatting away and everything. And so my mom just kind of, nudges him a little and she's like, we should probably get home because Trudy, that's their dog, she's still around, she's still alive. Trudy needs to go on her walk and we need to feed her before it gets too late. And my dad's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. So, they get up, do their little goodbyes and stuff like that. And, the Midwest goodbye, taking your time, chatting at the door, stuff like that. And so they get to the door, okay? And then they leave and they get into the car. And dad turns on the car and everything. And they're getting ready to go. And my mom looks at the house. All of a sudden, the lights, all the lights, the front lights, all of that, off. They turned off the lights as a signal of, good, you're leaving. And my mom just kind of was like, did you not pick up that it was time to leave? Like they wanted us to leave? And dad's like, oh no, I didn't really notice or anything. So see, that right there with my dad not picking up like, hey, my social battery is run out. I think, it's time for you guys to go. I have to go to bed. I have things I gotta do. It's getting late. Probably should head home. No, nothing. It's like it goes right past the head for my dad. So, I don't know. You guys want to tell me if this man is super oblivious or am I seeing things? Because I feel with those two stories that it shows that he is kind of oblivious. He didn't really pick up on a lot of things. So that's the end of this video. It was pretty much a shorter kind of one because I only, had so much to go off of. I'm sure there's probably other stories my mom has about my dad that I could probably tell you guys about. So I hope you guys enjoyed and let me know any other funny stories about your parents that you have. I would love to read them. And maybe you can tell me about anybody that you know is super oblivious that probably could one up my dad on how oblivious they are. Okay? I would love to hear it. So leave those in the comments if you have any of those stories. I make new videos every Wednesday/Thursday and Saturdays. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!